labeled as the Great War because of the enormity of the consequence and devastation. The book even explains that the impact on British lives was so enormous that it became labeled as the Great War. And like I mentioned before, nothing like it has happened since. Even as bad as other wars like World War II were, it still is, the Great War is still a distant first place, unfortunately. Another reason why it's great. I had placed a movie clip of a movie depicting the legend around of Lawrence of Arabia. And thought it was fun just to insert this because some of these are the things that we don't know about the interconnectedness of history and Great Britain especially, and it touched the world so bigly and so bigly. That's really good. So large, such a large way. And somebody in Great Britain had been doing some history in the Middle East and Arabia, because when it came to strategies to fight against the Ottoman Empire, the Ottoman Empire again was Islamic. It was a Muslim empire, and they had moved the seat of Islam to Turkey, to the Ottoman Empire. So what's really key to note about that is there are a lot of traditional Muslims, especially in Saudi Arabia, for example, who detested that, who did not like and actually probably even hated the Ottoman Empire. Even though they're supposed to be Muslim brothers, let's say, there's not an affinity for them at all, either because of their way they practiced Islam and or the fact of moving the seat of Islam to the Ottoman Empire. Well, like I said, some British historian was very clever in knowing that. Well, Lawrence of Arabia, this gentleman, this military officer had been in Egypt, and he was sent to Arabia to basically gather rebel troops to create sabotage and to build a just a covert operation. I guess not really so covert, but a large operation against the Ottoman Empire. And you see in the movie clip them blowing up a train railway and things like that. But it's fascinating because, again, it shows us the more we understand history, we can really be armed with that knowledge. Now, I'm not talking about it saying in a situation like that, but even as Christians, in the context, when the more we know historical settings, things that have happened to people, the more we're able to strategically, in a good sense, relate to the people, articulate, or know how to communicate them, or be sensitive to the things that have happened in the past. Well, this movie clip just shows again some of the war effort against the Ottoman Empire and how they used rallying, militia and rebels, so to speak, from the Arabian Peninsula to fight against the Ottoman Empire. I just thought you might enjoy that. It's a good movie to watch when you have some time. It's a classic and a lot of fun to relate this to this era that we're talking about. Reviewing question 3. Question 3, we talk about how did Great Britain's empire reach its zenith in 1919? The simple answer really is that the Treaty of Versailles, the League of Nations that we see come on the scene here as well, both of those divvied up some of the colonial holdings that the Ottoman Empire and Germany had held and reassigned them. And so some of them were assigned to Great Britain even as mandates, and so forth. So now, the British Empire, which was already pretty large, has now grown to its zenith, at least geographically, to the point where it included now a third of the world's population. That's pretty big. And we get that phrase where the sun never sets on the British Empire applying again here, where it had reached all around the globe. So at some point, the sun was rising, and in other areas, the sun was setting on the British Empire. But overall, if the sun is rising somewhere, then you can say that the sun fully never set on the British Empire, because somewhere it was just rising up. in the morning. Other aspects to mention about the zenith, though, would be how short-lived it was. Again, some of this we've already touched on if we consider the things that were going on before the war had started, like the colonial nationalistic movements, for example. So its zenith, in size and in wealth, really didn't last that long. The book even mentions by the 1930s, the United States of America, had replaced Great Britain as the world's superpower. So it didn't last real long at the zenith level, but it is definitely interesting to talk about and key to mention, and then of course answering the question. That's the most simple aspect of why it had reached its zenith. I'm looking at my notes here to make sure I'm not forgetting some other things to mention as well. I think that pretty much wraps it up. Again, this week we'll have a second unit exam on study questions from chapters 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then of course these lecture video and the notes that you take from them as well. We'll also be seeing your choices for research topics, for the research paper I should say, coming in during this time as well. Well, enjoy the class and we'll connect soon.